You're listening to the JD Rucker Show. Let's begin. So apparently yesterday's show really struck a chord. The floodgates opened on both my emails as well as my ex-post DMs. People were offering their theories, their ideas, telling me different places that I could look, and I did explore several of them. Several ideas about what started the fires, and more specifically, who started the fires and why they were started and what the end game was. I even had one that I thought was very interesting. I sort of dismissed it, not completely, but it's lower on the hierarchy of possibilities, but it was interesting because it was a long email, and they suggested that basically this was all about Matthew Levelsberger, that we were getting too close, that the narrative, the agenda that was put in play with the bombing on New Year's Day in Las Vegas at the Trump Hotel, that we were getting basically too close to learning the truth, and they needed to distract us. They needed to send us investigative journalists and everybody else in a completely different direction so that we would stop noticing things such as the fact that they said that he had shot himself in the head and then released video, and when you slowed down the video, you could see that he clearly was not shot in the head, and that it appeared that he was alive when the bomb went off, if that was even him in the first place, which is also in doubt. So yeah, it's a theory. It's, again, I'm not dismissing it, but it is lower on the hierarchy. There are theories about Diddy, and I'm going to talk about that. Hey, this is all about getting rid of Diddy evidence, getting rid of evidence of child sex trafficking. Again, not dismissing it. I still stick with the most likely scenario for me is that this is guerrilla warfare, that they are trying to sow chaos. They are trying to take down the United States of America bit by bit, piece by piece, causing the disasters, whether it's the substation down in Texas that blew up just right before a massive winter storm came through, or of course the fires in Los Angeles and other events that have been happening across the country that don't seem to make sense. All of this, of course, is happening just before President Trump's inauguration, just before he's officially back in the White House. The Judge Juan, speaking of Trump, Judge Juan Merchan. I love that guy's name. I don't, but he of course laid down the sentencing of Donald Trump, and the sentencing, he's sentenced to nothing, but he's still guilty, and therefore he's still tainted as a president. And I don't know, call it a therapy session for himself, self-therapy, just trying to make himself feel better for failing miserably at stopping President Trump from winning the election. I don't know. But that's a nothing burger. I'm not going to even talk about it. Even though I will say this, that there is, if we see shenanigans before January 20th or even immediately after January 20th, that's somehow attached to this now conviction, full-blown conviction, now that the sentencing has happened, then maybe there is a plan. I don't know. I'm not sure what exactly the Democrats are doing, the uniparty swamp, the globalist elite cabal, the deep state. I'm not sure what any of them are doing. Again, I've been very open and transparent about the fact that they're not acting in a way that I would have expected, in ways, I should say. And that's concerning. It's very concerning. We want our adversaries to be predictable. If there had been massive George Floyd-style riots after Donald Trump's victory, I would have been able to predict that. I was predicting that, and it didn't happen. If we had seen flailing about by Democrats calling Trump illegitimate, I would have expected that. And we didn't really see a whole lot of that either. This has been odd. And All I can say is stay frosty, because we know that they're not just going to throw up their hands and accept it like apparently Mark Zuckerberg is pretending to do. They're not going to just throw up their hands and say, "Oh well, I guess we lost." Well, let's get on board with Team America and try to fix things. That's not their style. They want to burn it down, and in some cases, especially in LA, apparently literally. So we'll see how all of this plays out. Before I get into the stories, I want to do a quick shout out to my good friend Mike Lindell and My Pillow. Now that the holidays are over, now that Christmas is behind us, it's time to start taking care of ourselves. And I think that one of the best ways you can do so while also supporting this nation is by going to mypillow.com/JDR, mypillow.com/JDR. Use promo code JDR for the maximum discount and start stocking up. They've got great sales right now on the pillows themselves, but of course on everything else. Slippers, dog beds. I've got like a half dozen dog beds scattered around various rooms in my house, all from My Pillow, of course, because they make the best stuff. And people ask, well, why do you have to buy so many? It's because my dogs, for whatever reason, they like to sleep in different rooms. I have an older dog who she will follow me everywhere. Okay, I'm not even that nice to her, and she still follows me every single room. If I go, I have to close the bathroom door. She'll follow me in there as I'm taking a shower. So yeah, we keep dog beds, 'cause she's old. She's an older dog, so she can't jump up on the couch anymore. But and then we have a younger dog who just, anyway, who cares about my dogs? What you should care about is your dogs, your neck for My Pillow, your beds, getting the bed covers and sheets and towels and all sorts of amazing stuff. The robes, spectacular. I love My Pillow robes. So check it out, mypillow.com/JDR. Use promo code JDR to get the maximum possible discount. Now let's get to the first story. Where the LA fire started in an effort to destroy evidence from the Diddy case or from child sex trafficking in general, I would say the answer is partially, possibly yes. It's funny because I actually set forth investigating this, looking into it, talking to some people with the intention of debunking it, because I am a firm believer that this is an effort by the globalist elite cabal to sow chaos, to create a condition that will affect the entire United States, because these fires will affect the entire United States in the short term and long term. It's not just LA, it's not just the LA residents who are going to be hurt by this. This is not even just California. The United States of America will be damaged as a result of these attacks. And I do believe that they are attacks. We've talked about this a lot. I talked about it 3 or 4 different segments yesterday about how, especially when we look at the map, it becomes pretty clear that I'm at about 90 or 95% sure that these are attacks. Now, whether they are from domestic enemies, foreign enemies, a combination of the two, the globalist elite cabal, whatever, that's up for debate. So we don't necessarily know the who. We just know that, yeah, I mean, when you have different fires, 6, 7, 8 fires all lit within a 48-hour period, all at a time when they are going to be easily fueled, also at a time or in places where they will be able to cause the maximum amount of damage. It seemed that the timing was perfect to light a fire in the north when you got the wind coming down to the south, light a fire in the east when you have the wind going to the west. It all seemed like let's crunch this down. Like I said yesterday, and I've corroborated this with a couple of different people, experts. They've said, if you were going to use fire to attack a city, this is how you would do it. Okay, so I do still believe that this is part of a guerrilla warfare attack. But here's the thing. Now we get to the Diddy part and the child sex trafficking part. Let's say it is the globalist elite cabal that is behind this. And they're like, hey, oh, okay, we're going to do fires? Okay, cool. Wait, we've got some loose ends in Malibu and other places that if we're going to be doing fires, we definitely got to get rid of this guy's house, this lady's house. We've got some safe houses here and these places. We got a sex dungeon here in this place. Let's go ahead with the Diddy files out there. Let's go ahead and let's get rid of those houses too. Let's burn them all down. It's possible. Look, I'm not saying that is definitely the case. I'm not even saying it's maybe 50-50. But it is conspicuous that these celebrities, which generally speaking, most of them are insulated. Most of these events that happen, whether they're fires or explosions or sabotage or natural disasters, hurricanes, whatever, whenever it seems as if there's some connection to them being man-made or man-manipulated or man-enhanced, it's the important people that are often spared. And there's a reason why tornadoes seem to always hit trailer parks. It has nothing to do with bad luck. So anyway, that's a discussion for another day. But yeah, I think it is definitely possible that, sort of as a throw-in, they love to do that. It's like, hey, if we're going to be doing this, let's go ahead and take care of this and this and this. So yeah, I set out to debunk the notion, and in trying to do so, I realized it really might be possible that at least one or two of these fires were started as a result of the Diddy case, as a result of their desire to cover up child sex trafficking. Mark Zuckerberg's apology tour is a trap. Now, by now, you should be very well aware that Mark Zuckerberg is kissing every ring he can find. Anybody who's supportive of Donald Trump, he's met with Donald Trump himself. He offered Dana White a position on the board of Meta. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast, and that was released today. And this is an apology tour. He's basically saying, "Look, I'm not to blame. I'm a good guy." He is not. He is not a good guy. He must not be trusted. I don't care what information he reveals. This guy is a snake. He has been a snake for as long as he's been prominent in the public eye, and he has no place in the MAGA movement, no place in the administration, no place at all other than to continue to grovel. If he grovels for an additional 5 years and continues to try to make Facebook better, then great. Okay, maybe we can reconsider. Maybe I will reconsider. But until then, until he's a solid 5 years of being on the right side of the argument, he has not earned, in my humble opinion, the right to participate in what we're doing. And people might say, well, that seems awfully shallow of you, or I don't even know what word you'd want to use. Okay, so be it. I don't care. The guy is a snake. He has stabbed every single person in the back who has ever been in his life, at least since he's been prominent, which has been for about 2 decades. Maybe he was doing it before. Maybe it was the fame, the money, the power, whatever that made him change. But I would imagine it's just part of his nature. And as such, this recent, oh my gosh, let me blow the whistle on the Biden administration pressuring me. Look, here's the thing, what are the consequences of this? Nothing. Zero. What, the Biden administration is going to go after him in the last week and a half that they're in power? No. Is he going to get uninvited to some gala that maybe not? Who cares? He doesn't care. He just wants to be on the winning team, and he thinks that the winning team is Trump. This is a guy that spent $400 million to stop Trump. Don't tell me that he's changed his ways. Don't tell me that he's seen the light. He is not. He's put his finger in his mouth, stuck it up, seen where the wind is blowing, and that's the direction that he's heading. He sees Elon Musk. He has such Musk envy, it's not even funny. He sees Elon Musk out there getting involved with everything pretty much, and he wants to be that. He's like, man, Elon Musk wasn't even into social media until like 2 or 3 years ago. Now all of a sudden he's more powerful than me. I'm Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know. I'm not going to go into his mental state or his motivations. But this whole zero consequence coming clean thing, going on Joe Rogan, going and doing interviews and allegedly pulling back censorship, taking down the fact checkers. These are all ploys to try to get him in the cool kids crowd. That's all he wants to do. He just wants to be one of the cool kids. And he doesn't deserve to be, because he has fought against us, fought against the MAGA movement, fought against Trump, fought against this nation for years. You can't come back by just going on Joe Rogan and saying, see, it wasn't me, it was somebody else. We were pressured. They were yelling at us. Oh, what could we have done? Well, you could have come clean then. Why come clean now? Because there are no consequences for it. He loses nothing. He has a lot to gain from it. The dude's savvy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, these are great moves. And yet, just yesterday, they censored, I think they banned, or at least suspended, Life News for posting anti-abortion videos. They banned them on Instagram and Facebook. Sure, certainly doesn't seem like somebody who's open to free speech the way he suddenly claims to be. Mark Zuckerberg is a snake. He must not be trusted, and it will take years of groveling before he should even be considered for a reprieve of any sort. I don't often talk about other people's ex-posts, but when I do, chances are pretty good it'll be Donald Trump Jr., whose posts I talk about. The dude's like my spirit animal sometimes. I want to reply to something that I'll see, and usually before I reply, I'll always check to see if somebody else said the same thing. And I would say probably 4 out of 10 times that I wanted to say something, Donald Trump Jr. is one that actually had said it, and always before me. Very, very jealous about that. In this case, the ex-post in question came from squad member Pramila Jayapal. Corporations got us into this mess, but even they can't escape the devastating reality of climate change. And the picture is of a McDonald's that's burning in the wind. Donald Trump Jr.'s reply was epic. He says, "You're an idiot." That's not all. There's more, but I have to chuckle. "You're an idiot. As evidenced by the ratio, anyone with an IQ above 1 understands that this has nothing to do with climate change and everything to do with Democrat incompetence and woke DEI policies that have failed their constituents for far too long." Now, look, I can get into all of the conspiracy theories, and I have, and I will continue to do so, all the conspiracy theories surrounding what's really causing all these fires. Were they lit? Were they accidental? Is this planned? Who's behind it? Is this the climate change cult trying to prove a point? Is this the Chinese Communist Party trying to take down America? Is it somebody out there trying to get rid of the Diddy evidence? I've heard a lot of theories, and I'm not going to discount any of them fully until we know the truth, which we may never know. But with that said, it is nice to see other people out there, including Donald Trump Jr., highlighting the idiocy of the Democrats' response to this. It's not just the Democrats' response in Los Angeles itself. Arguably more infuriating is people like Jayapal who are out there just trying to gaslight us, trying to manipulate us, trying to point fingers in every direction other than the truth. And that's something that always hurts them the most. If you want to know what the kryptonite is for Democrats, what the crucifix is, the holy water to throw at them, to burn them up, it's the truth. Last year, my long-term storage food company, Prepper Farms, was partnered with and actually owned by another corporation. I know that nobody knew this. Very few people were even aware that this was the case because our production, our systems, everything was in place and working just as it should be. People would go, they would put in promo code JDR at prepperfarms.com. They would receive the maximum possible discount, as always, and then they would get their long-term storage beef. What you didn't know and what we can now explain now is that this year in 2025, we have gone back to the original ownership structure. And I'm very excited about that because that puts me finally back more in charge. And I am super excited about that concept, not because I crave power by any means, but because I feel that as an America First veteran-owned company, that we need to focus on helping Americans to prepare for whatever is to come, whether it's natural disasters or emergencies or de-dollarization, food crises, bird flu, whatever it is. We do expect something to happen, which is why we built prepperfarms.com in the first place. The idea here is to get high-quality, all-American, all-Texas beef, the good stuff, ribeye, New York strip, tenderloin, all of that good stuff, and freeze dry it naturally to give it a 25-year shelf life. We don't add any preservatives. There's only one One ingredient, and that's beef. Last 25 years in the bag, and that's awesome. So support this show, support me, support yourself and your family. Protect yourself for the future by stocking up on long-term storage, high-quality beef. Go to prepperfarms.com. That's prepperfarms.com. Use promo code JDR, and you will receive the maximum possible discount. DEI programs are ending, but the battle against wokeness now goes underground. We've seen it across the board. We've seen ever since President Trump won his election, we've seen companies across the United States ending their DEI programs. This has been a positive thing. We've been screaming and hollering, yay, look, we won. No, we scored a victory, but we have not won the war, not by any means. All that's happening here, folks, is that the official DEI programs are being canceled. That does not mean that diversity, equity, and inclusion will cease to be practiced in these various companies, just as we've seen in colleges. We've seen the same thing happen. They officially ended their affirmative action as a result of the Supreme Court. But hey, guess what? They're still doing it. They're still doing it. They're even boldly talking about it, but just more underground, more quietly. They're not giving it official names. They're not putting it down on paper, but they're still engaged in the same types of practices. The same thing is going to happen in these companies, which is why we need to become even more vigilant, more diligent, more direct when it comes to addressing these issues and making sure that people who are discriminated against because they're Caucasian or Asian or male or straight or whatever, that they still get the support they need. Because, again, DEI as a label might be losing, but the woke push continues. There's an article over at justthenews.com. Meta ends DEI programs in latest policy reversal. This comes from Ben Whedon over there, very talented author. Facebook and Instagram parent company Meta on Friday announced the end of its corporate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, marking a dramatic reversal as such programs come under intense scrutiny from the public. And they don't actually even care about the public. The scrutiny that they're most concerned about is legal scrutiny. They feel that they have to address this ahead of time because otherwise they're going to be forced to address it in court. Here's a quote from Vice President of Human Resources Janelle Gale. The legal and policy landscape surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in the United States is changing. Gale highlighted a recent Supreme Court ruling barring affirmative action in college admissions and suggested it was indicative of how courts would handle DEI programs in the future. She further noted the politicized nature of such initiatives. And yes, of course they're politicized, but they don't care. Until we actually change the leadership at these companies, we're not going to be able to change the culture. Until we're actually able to replace woke executives with unwoke executives, then the programs are going to continue. They're just not going to have a name. They're not going to have a label. Lastly, she wrote, we believe there are other ways to build an industry-leading workforce and leverage teams made up of world-class people from all types of backgrounds. Let me repeat that in case you weren't listening. We believe there are other ways to build an industry-leading workforce and leverage teams made up of world-class people from all types of backgrounds. The language is changing. The official policies are changing. But the actual practice of DEI, the actual practice of promoting diversity over merit, of promoting equity over equality, of promoting inclusion over what's best for a company. These things aren't changing. They're just being relabeled. ESG is not really dying. It, too, is just being relabeled. Of course, we covered diversity, equity, and inclusion being relabeled. It's still going to persist in corporations across the United States, just as affirmative action persists in the education arena. But when we look at ESG, we're starting to see a lot more companies, a lot more banks, big companies out there backing away from ESG, backing away from Net Zero Banking Alliance. This is supposedly great news, but I'm not cheering because I know when they're really, really, really making a change, and when they're just pretending to make a change. Let's start with this article over at Daily Wire. BlackRock exits climate activist group after pressure from Republicans. There's the key. How do you know when somebody's actually making a change? When I say somebody, I'm talking specifically about leftists, globalists, woke corporations, woke individuals, woke politicians. If they're making a real change, okay, if they're actually going to do something different than what they were doing before, they will attribute it to an evolution, new information. They will thump their chest and they'll say, "We figured it out. We are now switching over to this, and we're making change. We're doing better because of what we've learned, what we did." When they're lying, when they aren't actually going to make a change, when they just want to pretend like they're making a change, they will attribute it to, "Oh, we learned our lesson from those Republicans, though they did such a good job. They were right all along. We should have been listening to them the whole time. Republicans, conservatives, nationalists, oh, they were right. We were wrong. Oh, well." We saw this with the censorship. The Ministry of Truth that popped up, was it 2021, 2022? Ministry of Truth started popping up, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, nope, it's not popular. People are getting a lot of backlash. Let's end this." Except they never ended it. They just relabeled it, and then they relabeled it again. Okay, we're about to witness what I believe to be the fourth iteration of the Ministry of Truth. And the funny part is it's the same people involved. They just continue to do the same thing. They just pretend like they took a loss. They took the L because Republicans taught them a lesson. It's basically a way of placating. And this here, BlackRock's move allegedly away from ESG, away from woke investing, they're attributing it to Republican pressure because they're going to continue to do it. But let's get in this article by Leif LeMahieu. What a name. Great name for a writer. BlackRock exits climate activist group after pressure from Republicans. BlackRock announced this week that it was leaving a major climate activist group after Republicans criticized its involvement with the group. The company said in a letter that it would be leaving the Net Zero Asset Management Initiative, an organization of assets managers committed to supporting the goal of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 or sooner. At one point, NZAM boasted its members control over $57 trillion in assets. BlackRock's announcement comes after 11 Republican attorneys general, led by Texas AG Ken Paxton, filed a lawsuit in November against the asset managers over its involvement with groups like NZAM. Texas lawsuit accused BlackRock of violating antitrust laws by allegedly engaging in a conspiracy with other asset managers to constrict the market for coal. BlackRock has denied the allegations and said the suit is without merit. BlackRock's letter, first obtained by Bloomberg, acknowledged that its involvement with NZAM, quote, caused confusion regarding BlackRock's practices and subjected us to legal inquiries from various public officials. Our participation in NZAM didn't impact the way we manage client portfolios. Therefore, our departure doesn't change the way we develop products and solutions for clients or how we manage their portfolios. In other words, hey, yeah, you guys are suing us because we're involved in this organization, so we're going to leave the organization. The organization didn't change our practices, so we're not going to change our practices. But you guys win. Republicans win. Good, go team. Good job. You guys nailed us. We are so silly for thinking we could outsmart y'all. Now go sue somebody else. We're out of NZAM. Everything's all back to normal. Notice that they're saying that the practices that their investment practices were not influenced by NZAM, and now that they're leaving NZAM, their practices are going to continue. In other words, they're still going to participate in ESG investing. Now, the funny part is that they are trying to change. They're relabeling even that. Notice you hear much less about ESG. It's really only the right, conservatives or alternative media, that ever even mentions ESG anymore. They're now calling it the net zero. Now they're calling it whatever. They're calling it whatever they want to call it, and that name changes from year to year because they don't care about. All they care about is their end goal. They don't care about building harmony. They don't care about the branding aspect of it, is because every time they try to brand something, eventually it gets burned down because their ideas are stupid. Their ideas are ludicrous, and they know it. which is why people like Larry Fink over at BlackRock, he flat out said, look, ESG is getting a bad name, so we're going to have to give it a new name. That's it. They're not changing their practices at all. They're just trying to stifle lawsuits, to quash opposition, to end criticism, to move on to the next variation of the same exact thing. And it's not just BlackRock. It's an article over at, from a couple of days ago, over at thenewamerican.com. ESG continues to crumble. That's what they want us to think. And I'm not saying that the New American is doing a bad job here. They're just, I hate to say it, but they're just falling for the con. ESG continues to crumble. Goldman Sachs leaves UN's Net Zero Banking Alliance. Wow, everybody seems to be leaving. Isn't this great? Great work, guys. Go team. Financial industry giant Goldman Sachs has announced it will no longer participate in the UN-backed Net Zero Banking Alliance. It is the latest high-profile departure of a financial institution from a global climate alliance in the wake of scrutiny by American lawmakers concerned that banks are attempting to severely limit financial options for fossil fuels, concerns because of climate change. The NZBA, another net zero organization, this time with banks, the NZBA boasts membership of more than 140 global banks with a goal of creating net zero emissions by 2050. Does this not sound familiar? Keep in mind, these are two separate things. But they both start with net zero. They both involve banks. And they're both shooting for net zero emissions by 2050. They're just different labels. The United Nations Environmental Program, which oversees the alliance, has thus far not commented on Goldman Sachs' departure. Reuters reported the banking giants gave no specific reason for the departure. It hinted, though, that certain regulatory demands from European Union may have been a factor. Goldman Sachs is the latest to withdraw from a climate-based coalition. JP Morgan Asset Management, Franklin Templeton, and Vanguard have recently left similar climate alliances. These climate alliances are just being reshuffled. The policies remain. They're just trying to relieve the pressure, whether it's from Ken Paxton in Texas or the European Union, any conservatives over there. Once it's like it reminds me of like Wolf of Wall Street kind of stuff. Okay, they just keep changing things up, repackaging it, and going back and doing the exact same thing. This is going to continue. And I don't know what the solution is. It's like, oh, well, I guess we'll boycott BlackRock. What? I mean, we can't do anything to BlackRock. We'll expose BlackRock. Oh, okay, well, we still can't do anything to BlackRock. What are we going to take on JP Morgan Chase? Well, but we'll get the attorneys general. We'll get the European Union. We'll get the whoever. Somebody's going to... No. None of them are going to be able to do anything. These companies reign supreme, at least in this world, which tells us that the only thing that we can do is to be smart ourselves, to do what we can to avoid working with any of these companies, and then prepare for what seems to be an inevitability that they are going to, at some point, get their way. Our tax should not be against BlackRock or JP Morgan Chase, not because they don't deserve it, but because, it's there's think of it like you've got this big aircraft carrier, right? And we're sitting there, we're thinking, well, we're going to go, if we can get enough people together, we're going to go take them out. If you were to get 1,000 rowboats, okay, 1,000 rowboats, and give everybody a BB gun in these rowboats. You can have 1 million of these rowboats. 1 million of them ramming into the aircraft carrier, or trying to shoot it, or trying to avoid being taken out by F-18s or whatever. No, there's nothing we could do. So our attack posture should not be against these aircraft carriers. There are times when, don't get me wrong, I mean, I don't want to make people think that I'm suggesting that we, the people, can't get together and exact change. And the vast majority of the time we can. It's just not against these giants. We need to go after the policies that enable ESG to guide our nation. to guide our money. It isn't the companies, the bad guy companies, that we need to be going after. We need to make sure that whatever they do, we as Americans, we as individuals, that we are protected and insulated. And that's going to come through yes, I mean, it does come from exposing things, but it comes more from going after our own politicians, making sure that they're not controlled, making sure that they're not engaging in policies that will allow these organizations like BlackRock, like JP Morgan Chase, to guide our nation towards net zero 2050 and the destructive policies that entails.
I'm Jonathan Rose, CEO of Genesis Gold Group. As Americans, we work hard every day to provide for our families and ensure their future. But with the uncertainty facing our economy, it is more important than ever to safeguard your wealth and protect your retirement savings. Educated investors look to safe haven assets to shield themselves from the economic storm. Tangible assets like gold and silver can provide stability, security, and most importantly, peace of mind. In 1997, the Taxpayer Relief Act allowed Americans to hold physical precious metals like gold and silver in their IRAs for the first time. Today, Genesis Gold Group helps our clients transfer existing IRAs, 401ks, and other retirement accounts into physical gold and silver, tax and penalty free. With thousands of satisfied clients, 5-star reviews, and fully accredited with the Better Business Bureau, our experienced team is here to help you navigate the process. Start to finish, now is the time to educate yourself on the importance of a diversified portfolio, including tangible assets like gold and silver. Call now to receive our free wealth protection kit and digital dollar defense guide. Call now and we'll include our extremely popular silver prepper bar free when you open your account. Add it to your IRA or have it sent to your home. Call Genesis Gold Group today at 800-200-GOLD. Prepper bar only available through Genesis Gold Group.
What can we do to stop the AI revolution? I'll cut to the chase. The answer is nothing. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing that any human being can do, not even Donald Trump. AI is coming. In many ways, it's already here. There's nothing that we can do to stop it. What we can and must do is prepare ourselves, prepare our own lives from being impacted by artificial intelligence, and specifically artificial general intelligence, as much as possible. There's an article over at Harbinger's Daily by David Bowen. It's a relatively long article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the concepts are strong. I disagree with some of the things he's saying, but again, the warning is real. It says, AI Trojan horse, the infrastructure necessary for the Antichrist's technology is being developed and used today. And he goes through and refers to the Trojan horse aspect of things, defines what the Trojan horse story is, which I'm sure everybody is familiar with. And he says that AGI, artificial general intelligence, is that Trojan horse. It's going to be allowed into our lives. And most of us, the vast majority of Americans and everybody in Western society will accept it. Not only accept it like, oh, okay, I guess we have to do it, except like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, this is amazing. They're going to love it. Many of them are going to worship it. And this does pose a threat, not just from a spiritual level, but also physically. Because artificial general intelligence will be able to do some tremendous things. It already can do tremendous things. But as it's integrated deeper and deeper into society, further and further into our lives, we're going to find that the benefits are going to be greatly outweighed by the detriments. So what can we do? We can prepare, but I'll get to that here in a second. First, I want to let's get past this part. He says, and it's funny because he says in here that ChatGPT is artificial general intelligence. It's not. It's close. It's getting there, but it's not. It really is just a very advanced chatbot at this point. But at some point, it can be used and will eventually, and when I say eventually, it will almost certainly be in 2025 that they are able to advance to full-blown artificial general intelligence. We've talked about that in the past. Their yearly revenues currently, with over 10 million paying subscribers, 250 million users overall, but with 10 million paying subscribers. They have revenues of about $3 billion a year. On top of that, they just received a massive investment of another $6.6 billion. And no, that number shouldn't just be glazed over. Very concerning. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, has been very vocal, very active in recent weeks. And that too should concern us, but it can be used for many things. We've talked about some of those things, such as obviously the warfare component. It will definitely be used, and there's nothing we can do to stop that. The nanotechnology component, that's something that is relatively new, burgeoning, and yet artificial intelligence may be the key to being able to properly control and utilize nanotechnology. These are all things that are going to be positioned as positives, but of course, whenever you become beholden to just about anything, you become a slave to it. And we are looking at what is the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. We're also seeing what is essentially the very likely, I don't want to say certain, but very likely the next phase of the end times. And artificial general intelligence will play a very important role. But this is one of the parts I want to read. This is from that article. And I want to give you an idea of how there are going to be a lot of us, a lot of you, who love AI, who embrace it because of the things, the problems that it can solve. According to the article, Seekr, S-E-E-K-R, an AI-powered wearable device. The Consumer Electronics Show, known as CES, is about to take place in Las Vegas. Each year, the show is considered a global event because it brings together tech companies focused on solving humanity's greatest problems. One piece of technology about to be revealed is Seekr, an AI-powered wearable device designed to empower the visually impaired. Seekr uses real-time machine algorithms to process visual data and send audio feeds to the user's Bluetooth earpieces. This device is designed to help the visually impaired identify objects, navigate obstacles, and even read signs. That sounds, there doesn't seem to be a downside there, right? I admit that technology has some amazing abilities. It could allow some people to have their sight restored. It has the hopes of helping the lame walk, the blind see, and the deaf hear. Sounds familiar? Now, I use that reference on purpose because in Scripture, a sign of the Messiah, according to Jesus, walking, the blind seeing, and the deaf hearing. Let me be clear on what I am saying here. I am not saying that technology is God. I am saying the companies designing this technology tend to think they are godlike in their ability. Now, I'm not going to get into DeepSeek. That's a Chinese company that needs to be stopped. But let's jump here. This is from Zechariah 14:12. I'm going to read it to you because the point he's trying to make here is that there was a time not too long ago when Bible scholars, theologians, could not explain Zechariah 14:12. They couldn't see it as being possible. And yet now we see it as not only possible, but it's already here. It's happening. It can be done. It reads, their flesh will rot while they are still standing on their feet. Their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongues will rot in their mouths. What could that possibly be? We are already seeing it today. I'm going to jump past OpenAI 0.3 and the Turing test. You get the idea. So what can and should we do? We can't stop it. We cannot stop it. It's going to happen. What we can do and what we must do is prepare ourselves, our families, our lives, and many times, if we have the resources, even our own communities, to be able to prevent, I guess you could say, the infiltration, the Trojan horse entering the castle, so to speak. We need to push ourselves away from the coming AGI society, because that's what it's really going to be. You're going to find that within our lifetimes, we will have a society that is almost completely dependent upon and beholden to artificial general intelligence. And more importantly, the people that control it, if people still control it at all. There's two scenarios. Either AGI takes over and there will be people controlling AGI, or AGI takes over and nobody's controlling it. It's controlling itself. Either way, it's very, very bad. Either way, it goes back to, as the story is trying to discuss, being an amazing tool for the Antichrist in the end days. So just as an example, we see AGI is supposed to be the next big thing in medical technology. Well, let's go there first. In medical technology, they believe that AGI will not only be able to diagnose diseases before humans possibly could, but also be able to come up with new and better treatments for those diseases. Perhaps more mRNA, perhaps more whatever. We don't know. We don't know how it's going to manifest, but manifest it will. And this is where so many of us are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Many of us have ailments in our lives or in the lives of our loved ones that perhaps we need certain treatments or certain pharmaceuticals just to keep us alive or to keep us functioning properly. What are we supposed to do? How can we break free from that? Especially if the next iteration is going to involve artificial intelligence and they're going to say, hey, guess what? That old treatment, we got a better one. Just get plugged into this treatment that was developed by some non-doctor, some AGI, something that will almost certainly have nefarious means. What can we do? Now's the time to find options. Find natural options if you can. Figure out ways to take care of your ailments without being beholden at all to doctors, to big pharma. And I know a lot of you are thinking that's not possible. I have to be beholden to them. They keep me alive. I get it. It sucks. For many of us, we don't have an option. But if you do have an option, if you have ways that you can break free from regular medical science, break free from pharmaceuticals, from dependency on your drugstore, dependency on anything, now's the time to figure that out. Because when AGI takes over, and it will take over, and I'm not saying take over as in like Skynet take over, I'm saying take over, it will start doing more jobs, including in the pharmaceutical and medical arenas. What can we do? We have to figure out a way to not participate, because just because you don't get involved directly with AI doesn't mean that it's not going to get involved with you. We know that. So starting now and taking precautions, that's the path forward. I'm going to be going into AI probably every show or every 2 shows, because this to me it's the burgeoning I don't want to call it an existential threat per se, but it is. It's a different kind of existential threat though. Okay, this isn't like food shortages or meteors. This isn't about, people just dying as a result. This is about people living. It's about people living under the rule of either the people that control the AGI overlords or the AGI overlords themselves. We don't know. We don't know how it will manifest. We just know that whatever it is, it's going to be bad. So now's the time to prepare. I'm going to, again, be talking about different aspects of it going forward. Today's takeaway, I guess you could say, would be figure out how, if there is a possible way to break free from pharmaceuticals, break free from doctors in your life, now's the time to do it. LA's diversity hire fire chief points her finger at the city of Los Angeles for failing her. Now, there are 2 things that let's get out right off the bat before I even play her video. Number 1, it isn't just her that they failed. They failed the people of Los Angeles City, Los Angeles County. They failed the people of California, and they failed the United States of America, because every American is going to feel some consequence from this. This isn't going to be isolated to just LA or just LA County or just California. This is going to be felt nationwide. It will. I mean, we're talking about the second most populated city. We're talking about a whole lot of money, a whole lot of people involved in this that are in the process of being damaged, displaced. Yes, you are going to feel it, even if you just feel it in your insurance. I mean, you're going to feel it in some way, some fashion, even if you're in Maine or Florida or as far away from California as possible. You are going to feel it. So that's number 1. Number 2, it wasn't just the city that failed her. We can point our finger at Karen Bass all day, and we will continue to point our finger at Karen Bass because she is to blame in large part for this. I mean, she was the one that we learned yesterday that she had cut $17.6 million from the fire budget in order to help what? Illegal aliens and some woke causes and some whatever failures themselves, of course. Now we learned today that she wanted to cut an additional $49 million. Oh, imagine if she had gotten her wish there. She is an absolute failure. But it's not just her. This does go to the county level, and we are seeing county failures across the board. I mean, it is ugly. Their counties sending out alerts that are supposed to go out to like 15,000 people. They're going out to like over 10 million people. Alerts going out to evacuate Orange County. It's like, what? I'm in Orange County. I'm nowhere near the fires. Well, yeah, evacuate. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Panicked people. I actually had a friend who evacuated because he was told to evacuate. The fire wasn't anywhere near him, but he still evacuated because that's what they told him to do. And then, of course, there's the state level. And at the state level, the state of California, that is supposed to be, if it were a nation, it would be the 5th largest economy in the world, is somehow unable to do anything right. I live out here. I get to see the failures every day. And this is, I've lived in I've lived in a diverse range of areas across the United States. I've lived in multiple states. And the incompetence, we can't even call it incompetence, the utter stupidity of the government in California, it is exponentially greater than the idiocy that I've seen elsewhere. I've lived in New York. That was bad. But it's nothing compared to California. I mean Sacramento, just morons up and down the board. Absolute morons. Let's play this clip of Kristen Crowley being asked repeatedly, did they fail you? They being the city of Los Angeles.
Did the city of Los Angeles fail you and your department and our city?
It's my job to stand up as a chief and exactly say justifiably what the fire department needs to operate to meet the demands of the community.
Did they fail you?
That is our job, and I tell you, that's why I'm here. So let's get us what we need so our firefighters can do their jobs.
Did they fail you?
Yes.
Should we be happy that she is willing to point the finger? Sure, I guess. To some extent, it's more fodder for discussion. Even the diversity hire is pointing fingers at Democrat leadership in the city of Los Angeles. That's a story unto itself. But here's the reality, is that the failure really does fall, I would say, give it maybe 20, 30% on her. She is the reason for this. And you might say, how? But she can only work with what she's got. Well, did she learn on Monday that she didn't have enough resources? Or has she been aware that she did not have enough resources for a long time? The answer is, of course, the latter. She's known that she should have. So there's two possibilities here. Either she knew that her departments were unable to meet the needs if there was to be a major fire in Los Angeles, and she chose to focus on advancing the LGBTQIA plus DEI diversity agenda. Okay, that's option one. Option two is that she didn't know that she was unprepared. She didn't know that her department didn't have enough to handle this. So either she made very poor choices, or she's an idiot and doesn't need to be in the job. Actually, either way, she doesn't need to be in the job. If she knew that they were being failed, then she should have gone to the press. She should have gone to the mayor's office. She should have been screaming at the top of her lungs. Instead, she's doing interviews talking about how she's breaking glass ceilings and oh my gosh, first female homosexual woman, whatever, to be LGBT or to be this is a different discussion, to be the fire chief in LA. That's great. Okay, breaking glass ceilings, but glass is falling over the rest of the people in Los Angeles, and it's burning them. In some cases to death. At least 10 dead, and I suspect that number is going to go up, unfortunately, sadly. So yeah, we could say, oh, good on her for pointing the finger. She should have been pointing the finger months ago. Here's a true story. I was testing out some coffee. This has been almost a year ago. Testing out some coffee for a potential sponsor. And I had made the coffee, and I went about my morning routine, did my work, doing my thing, and then I took my first sip of coffee. And it struck me. I'm like, holy crap. I had forgotten that I had was testing out this new coffee. I just took the first sip and I was like, wow, this is really good. And then I remembered, oh my gosh, this is Promised Grounds. This is the stuff that they sent me. So I started drinking some more of it, and I have become a lifetime customer of Promised Grounds. They are a Christian coffee company, which I know you don't see a whole lot of them. They give back to the community. They're Texas, all American, all Texan, just like a lot of the stuff that we do. Check them out. Go to jdrucker.com/coffee, jdrucker.com/coffee, and check out Promised Grounds. It's great. Gavin Newsom whines to Joe Biden about misinformation. It's very rich. Lest we forget, this is the same guy who's telling you that you are not essential. I got to live through it out here in California. If you are not essential, then you can't go out to visit loved ones or friends. You can't go out to eat. And then, of course, he went out to eat at the French Laundry. And if you're not familiar with the French Laundry, it's like $1,000 a person for their coveted meals. Very, very odd of him to be that guy. Of course, he's going to whine about misinformation. This guy is one of the kings of misinformation. He's a liar. He's a scumbag. And now he's whining to another liar and scumbag. Watch.
I ask you, we've got to deal with this misinformation. There were hurricane force winds of mis and disinformation, lies. People want to divide this country, and we're going to have to address that as well. And it breaks my heart as people are suffering and struggling that we're up against those hurricane forces as well. And that's just a point of personal privilege that I share that with you, because it infects real people that are out there, people I meet every single day, people the mayor's been meeting with, and they're having conversations that are not the typical conversations you'd have at this time, and you wonder where this stuff comes from, and it's very damaging as well. But we're here to get the job.
Here's the scummiest thing I think I've ever heard from Gavin Newsom before. While the city, his people, are still burning, the fires are still raging, his biggest concern is the narrative. That's it. All he is doing here is setting the stage to be able to have a scapegoat for his own failures, for the Democrat Party's failures in California. That's it. They're going to be trying to scream, oh, climate change, misinformation, climate change and misinformation. It's all about climate change and misinformation. No, it's not, because we are just awful at leading a nation or leading a state or leading a city. They are, of course, awful at leading nations, states, and cities, but they know there's enough stupid people out there who will still say, oh, okay, so it was misinformation. Ah, God, it must have been misinformation that they diverted funds away from the fire department. It must have been misinformation that they diverted water into the ocean for the sake of a fish. That must have been misinformation. Gavin said it was misinformation. I say it often, I am, in many ways, I'm stuck out here. And in many ways, it's a blessing to be out here. I'm stuck because of circumstance, but it's a blessing because, well, there are some great things about California, but it's also a blessing because I have the opportunity to hopefully change some hearts and minds, to get some people to turn this state, this once beautiful state, into a purple and possibly even a red state. I think it's possible. I really do. Especially, during events like these, when it's clear, it's blatant, it's obvious that this is based, this tragedy has been pushed because of Democrat failures. I'm not talking about who started what or anything about wins. I'm talking about the fact that they could have and should have been able to dramatically mitigate the damage done, to stop these fires in their tracks before they were able to become infernos, before they could devastate thousands of houses, kill at least 10 people, take the entire city, bring it to the brink of collapse, because that's really where we stand right now. I don't know what the future holds for California or for Los Angeles specifically, but I do know that it's clear that the Democrats are to be blamed for the lack of preparedness and the unwillingness to do what was necessary to protect their citizens. I just pray that more of my fellow Californians are able to use this as a reason to wake up. It's not like they're not waking up. They've known. They just stick their heads in the sand because it's more convenient to be woke than to be right. It's easier to be a Democrat than to be a Republican. It's easier to support Gavin, Newsom, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris than to support Donald Trump or any lucid people, namely mostly Republicans. But is the easy way out the best way? 9 times out of 10, absolutely not. And I would say that supporting Democrats in the state of California is one of the worst methods or worst ways to take the easy way out. We need to make the hard choice. And that choice must be to abandon the Democrat Party. I'm not saying you have to go jump all over the Republicans. The GOP in California is to the left of the the Democrats in Oklahoma. Okay, I'm not crazy about our Republicans out here, but they're still head and shoulders above the lunacy of the Democrats. And we'll see how long this lasts. We'll see if California does wake up or if it's just lost. Because here's the thing. At this stage, at this point, after so many years and decades under Democrat rule, if Californians don't wake up and make changes immediately, there won't be a California for much longer. And it's not hyperbole. Lord willing, I'll be back very soon with another episode. But in the meantime, stay strong, stay safe. God bless.